On Tech News Today, photos of the next Microsoft Band leak. Drones are building bridges, literally. And the people who brought you Monument Valley are making a virtual reality game. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, September 21st, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa gift card when you get a loan. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay, period. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan. Our co-anchor today is CNET.com editor-in-chief, Lindsay Turrentine. Hey, Lindsay, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And you're coming to us through the miracle of, not Skype, but Google Hangouts, and we'll talk about why that is the case in just a second when we interview somebody who is also coming in through Hangouts. So in the meantime, why don't we jump in to our top story. A French regulator today rejected Google's appeal over its right to be forgotten order. The French CNIL Commission ordered Google in May to censor search engine results globally based on the Europe's right to be forgotten law. The right to be forgotten requires search engines to delete search engine results when a person's name is used as a search query under certain conditions. Google has been complying with the right to be forgotten rules for European versions of the search engine, but in its appeal, Google said France doesn't have the right to censor beyond its borders, and that such a precedent would invite all nations to force the global censorship of Google based on their own national laws and values. This is always confusing me, Lindsay, why France would push this issue. It seems like crazy talk, and I don't understand why they think they can censor the internet globally.
I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think it just comes down to sort of cultural issues, right? I mean, France is just sort of like, you can't push us around, and we're just going to make this really hard for you. I feel like that's what it is. It's more like it's like the most expensive kind of saber rattling.
Yeah, and it's a form of overreach when it comes to regulation, which ironically is precisely why there is no European Google. It's precisely why there's no European Facebook, no European Apple, no European any of this stuff, because they regulate the industry to death. And that's why they have to contend with all these dominant U.S. companies, because the U.S. has this approach from the Clinton administration, actually, where the idea is you can go ahead and jump out there and we'll figure out how to sort of deal with it later. Europe sort of preemptively regulates. And so it's really a stifled industry. And I think that France is a perfect case. I mean, it's like, anyway, I don't know where this is going to come about. I mean, one extreme outcome is if France actually forces them to censor globally, they may just pull out of France. I
think Google would do that in a second. I mean, France, love you, France, but it's really not that important from a global economic standpoint, right? And I'm pretty sure you're right. Google would just say, okay, well, our global business is way too important, and we simply do not believe in this approach. And I think they'd be right.
I also am bothered by the sort of cultural bigotry behind this. The idea, essentially what they're asserting is that we want you to censor Google for European values, but they wouldn't support censoring it for Chinese values or Pakistani values or Iranian values or any other kind of values. I haven't heard any European say, yes, we should censor all the internet for all the values, for Sharia law, for you name it, for North Koreans, whatever, get rid of the Falun Gong. All references to the Dalai Lama have to be expunged for the Chinese Communist Party on Google. I don't hear people calling for that in Europe. Just censor it for European values. So it's the whole thing bothers me enormously. So Anyway, I'd be interested in your prediction, though, Lindsay. What do you think is actually going to happen at the end of this when we get to, 5 years from now, whenever they resolve this thing? Do you think Google's going to win, or is France going to win? What's going to be the outcome here?
I think, as in most of these kinds of situations, there will be some degree of compromise, right? And what will happen is that France may take some pretty gnarly blows if Google decides to do something like pull out, but that eventually they'll sort of capitulate and say, but please, 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 let's just stick with the European version of right to be forgotten. Or we want a special track for our requests. And Google may say something like, okay, well, we're going to create a special fast track for France requests. I don't know. I suspect that it'll be a lot of posturing, and then in the end, some degree of compromise, mostly on France's side.
And I think that France already thinks it is doing a certain amount of compromise because, as Danny Sullivan found out, their intention is to censor the global internet only for European citizens. So, for example, if somebody in France who is French goes to the Japanese version of Google search, the right to be forgotten censorship has to appear on the Japanese version for that person, but not for a Japanese person. Or if a French tourist is on vacation in Canada and they go to the Canadian version of Google, it has to be censored while they're in Canada because they're a French citizen, but not for a Canadian citizen. And of course, the big question there is, how are they going to do that? I mean, the amount of surveillance and tracking that would be required and personal identity that would be required for that to happen is bothersome in its own right, especially given Europe's own privacy rules. So I don't know how they think they're going to enforce this. It just seems like you said, I think it's just, I think they just want to hit Google in the face with a mallet because they want to.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, more news coming right up. But first, I want to talk about Prosper. Prosper is the Silicon Valley way to borrow money. You don't want to go to a bank. I don't know if you ever saw the original Steve Jobs movie. No, not that one. The one before. No, not that one. The one before that, where they show Steve Jobs trying to get a loan to start Apple Computer. And they show him with a wooden Apple I walking into the bank and saying, hey, I'm going to build this. Or he probably said, I'm going to build it. Of course, Steve Wozniak was going to build it. Can I get a loan? That was called the Pirates of Silicon Valley, by the way. And, he got turned down by all these local banks in Mountain View and Palo Alto and so on. And he got really frustrated. And it's still kind of like that. You have to go hat in hand to the bank and try to borrow money. And that's a lousy way to borrow money. Prosper is the great way. You just go to the Prosper website and you enter what you want to borrow the money for. You want to pay down your debt. You want to start a business. You want to remodel your kitchen. Whatever it is, you put it in there. Just right from the website. And then people who want to invest in you, want to invest in your project and want to make a great investment will come along and fund your loan. And then it's just great in every way. You can check your low rate instantly without affecting your good credit. You retain control of everything because, again, it's just a really, really great loan. Now and for a limited time, Prosper is offering Twit viewers a $50 Visa gift card with your low-interest loan. You can get up to $35,000 in your account as few as 5 days and a $50 Visa gift card. Just go to prosper.com/twit for this special offer, and this is just for you, the Twit Army. Well, as we suggested earlier, Skype went down today for many users worldwide, and it's still down as far as we know. David Gilbert writes for the International Business Times in the UK and joins us now via Google Hangouts. What's going on, David?
Not much. This is a whole new experience for me as well, Mike. I've never hung out like this before, really.
Yeah.
It's strange, but yeah.
And it looks like there's a little bit of connectivity issues because, again, everybody's using Hangouts today, probably. Now, what time did Skype go down, and for how long did it go down?
I first noticed reports popping up around 9 a.m. UK London time, which is about 4 a.m. Eastern time in the US. And slowly but surely over the next kind of hour or so, it quickly ramped up as people woke up in the US and issues, as more and more people tried to log on to Skype, more and more reports were generated. And Skype was quite quick to update its Heartbeat service, which is its status dashboard. And it said that there was an issue. It didn't really explain much about it. While it's kind of updated that status a couple of times since, saying that they've now identified the issue, we still don't actually know what the issue is, the technical issue behind it, that is.
So that was my next question was, do we know what is going on? But obviously we don't. I was tweeting earlier that this feels like it's weirdly for us. It's weirdly kind of fun, right? Like using candles when the lights go out, trying to do this without Skype. But it's a real, it's obviously a real problem for lots of different kinds of businesses and for lots of different people who rely on Skype to communicate. How much damage do you think this is doing for the brand Skype and for the business? And how do you think that Microsoft has to behave to kind of get back some goodwill for an outage of this magnitude?
I think, well, first of all, Microsoft has been kind of at pains to point out that Skype for Business, which is the paid for version of Skype, hasn't been affected by this. So that's still up for those who use it.
Very convenient for them.
But for those who use Skype on a day-to-day basis in their business, just a regular version of Skype, this is a huge has a big productivity issues, I think. And there are going to be a lot of companies who are now today going to be looking elsewhere to see, is Google Hangouts a better option? Is Slack a better option? For people who use Skype, especially while the messaging service is still up for some people or for a lot of people, it isn't completely up for everyone. So there's still issues there. And I think what you need from a service like Skype is it just needs to be very, very robust. And while this is only the third major outage since the service began or since 2007, it's still going to be a big problem for Microsoft, I think, and they are going to have to do some serious groveling to fix it for users. And I think, there could be, we may see when it comes back online that there could be offers from Microsoft of free credit or something around that to try and apologize to its users.
Hopefully a free Microsoft band fitness wearable. That's my vote. So just to get a sense of the scale of this, how many people around the world use Skype as their essential phone company?
That's it's a very hard, the exact Skype user numbers are very hard to get because Microsoft doesn't break them out. But what we do know is a survey last year reported that 40% of all international phone calls around the entire world were made through Skype, which is a phenomenal figure considering how relatively young this company is. The last usage figures we have for Skype, I think, was that on the desktop side, 660 million people had downloaded the app, and 100 million people use it actively every month. But that was back in 2012. So the number of people using it today would typically be much higher than that.
Yeah, and this is particularly bad for Twit because we use, of course, Skype for lots and lots of our shows to bring in guests and hosts and everybody else. So as Jason was saying before the show, it might be a rough day today at the Brick House. David Gilbert is at ibtimes.co.uk, and you can follow him on Twitter at let's see, DAITHAIGILBERT. How about that? Thank you so much for joining us today, David.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, a little bit of breaking news here. If you are an Apple Watch user, you know that the new watchOS 2 was supposed to ship on September 16th. It was delayed because they found a bug at the last minute, but is now out, so you can update that app and you'll probably get the new OS. All right, just days after Apple won another court ruling against Samsung over the copying of Apple phone features, Samsung announced that it's copying Apple's new lease program, which is called the iPhone Upgrade Program. The Korean phone giant announced the lease program for the U.S. only. Samsung said it would launch in the next few days. Lindsay Turrentine, this is a little shameless, isn't it? I mean, it can't be a coincidence that Apple just announced this and then Samsung comes along with a nearly identical program.
Well, that's not unusual for the Korean giants. I mean, there is a slightly different sensibility about how essentially about copying, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like if it works, let's go ahead and do it. I mean, shameless or not, though, this is the way that things are going for hardware adoption in the United States. And I welcome it. I think that this is a much more transparent and honest way for people to buy their hardware and to really understand where the costs are coming from. And I say, I don't care who started it. It's good. It's a good thing.
The transparency and honesty is something the carriers have been resisting for years, and so this must be a nightmare for them. And should we call it a lease program? Isn't it really a subscription program? Because essentially you pay a monthly fee, and when the new version comes out, you just get the new phone. You turn in the old one. So it's not really a lease. It's not like when you lease a car, it's like 2 years, and at the end of that, you know, you're done with the lease and you bring the car back, and there's no built-in model for you to get the next car. You have to reacquire that and sign a new contract and all that stuff. In this case, it's really a subscription to hardware.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's one way to look at it. But you also can, I believe, you know, if you complete the length of the lease, that hardware is yours. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't care about replacing a phone every 1 or 2 years, you could treat it a little bit more as a lease, like a lease to own kind of situation.
Okay.
And you sort of pay it off, and then you say, okay, I've got this piece of hardware. I don't need something new. I'm kind of thrifty, and I like living with what I have. So yeah, you could look at it either way. And I think but I do think a subscription to hardware for people who are really into changing their hardware is a fantastic idea.
It's a fantastic idea, but people don't know it. If you called it a subscription, people wouldn't want it. But they do want it. They just don't want to call it a subscription. They don't like the idea of that. Like people like to.
They like the idea of owning things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, a Spanish site called Microsoft Insider posted what they claim are leaked pictures of the next Microsoft-banned fitness wearable. The product, which is internally codenamed Envoy, has the same long rectangular touchscreen as the old version, but adds 2 physical buttons on the bottom of the device and an improved band, including an improved clasp. The product is expected to be unveiled at a special Microsoft event in New York City on October 6th. What do you think about this, and how did CNET review this?
You know, well, the first version, I think, was we wanted to love it.
Yeah.
We wanted to love it. We did not. And that's always disappointing, right? You kind of want a great competitor to the Fitbits of the world, and everybody's eager to find the wearable that's really going to work for them. Microsoft has a way to go, and I think I'm glad that they're sticking with it, because some of the ideas about the original were really nice. We'll see how it sorts out. They've got just so much competition in this space.
Yeah, it's tough out there for a wearable company, especially with Apple around and Samsung being aggressive and so on. I just can't imagine. Although the fitness, in fairness, the fitness wearable part is actually doing better than the regular smartwatch market. So, you know, it's a good market to be in. If they just have to be able to compete against the Fitbits of the world and so on. Well, Dropbox today announced a new feature intended to improve collaboration. Dropbox will soon get a Team tab on the left menu. When selected, the tab enables groups of employees to share files in a central hub. This just makes sense, Lindsay.
It does make sense, and I can't believe it took this long in the era of Slack.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? I mean, Dropbox has got it has some pretty major competition in the sort of sharing and collaboration business space. I think what Dropbox has going for it is that a lot of people use it personally, so they feel comfortable with it. Yeah. And if this helps retain those customers as business customers, then that'll be good for Dropbox. But it's about time. Yeah.
I agree. Well, in Hack Attack news, Apple's App Store has been distributing malware, mostly in China, thanks to malicious code added to 39 popular apps. Infected apps include WeChat and Angry Birds 2. Hundreds of millions of users might have been affected. The attackers created a fake version of Apple's Xcode development tool. The malware-injecting version is called Xcode Ghost. The fake tool inserted code into otherwise normal apps, causing them to send information about the devices they run onto a central server. Lindsay, Turrentine, this is interesting because they cleared 2 very difficult hurdles. The first hurdle is they convinced major app developers, WeChat, for example, Camcard, which is a major business card scanner, and others. These are big companies. They convinced them that the Xcode Ghost platform was actually Xcode, and so I don't know how they did that. And then they were able to get these apps out there without Apple's process detecting that they were, in fact, had built-in malware. So those are very difficult to do. And so this was a skillful hack. It's being reversed by Apple. Apple's taken down all these apps. And there's some possibility that the speed of updating and the transfer of information in and out of China for Apple may have contributed to this. In other words, it's slow, and so everything, all the detection has been slow, so they've been able to do this. But this is very surprising. This is not supposed to happen in Apple's closed walled garden.
No, it's not. And this is it's pretty shocking. Apple has had, what, 2 small breaches in the past, minor ones, and this is like by far the largest problem like this that they've had. CNET recommends that you should, and this is sort of interesting, that Laura Hodala, who writes about this for CNET, recommends that one of the best things you can do to avoid this kind of thing is make sure that your iOS is as recent as possible. That often these hackers will focus on legacy versions of the operating system, and making sure that you update to iOS 9 is one of the best things you can do to kind of protect yourself as much as you can, but you can only do so much. And it is pretty shocking.
Yeah. Well, in mergers and acquisitions, the image board website 4chan has been sold to the man who inspired it. 4chan founder Christopher Poole sold the site to Hiroyuki Nishimura, who founded the online message board 2channel. 2channel, of course, is the site that Poole patterned 4chan after. 4chan has about 20 million visitors a month and has no outside funding and no full-time employees. The terms were not disclosed, and I think, Lindsay, one of the interesting things about this story is that this Nishimura character no longer controls 2channel, and so I think he wants to be in charge of a site like that again, and so he purchased one of its imitators, its main imitator, and now that's probably going to be his own personal sandbox now. So that it's very, very interesting story, I think.
That is an interesting story. I kind of like that. It's refreshing, right? Like somebody copied me, and I'm just going to buy them.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the fact that he's just going to own it outright. There are no investors to satisfy. There's no shareholders. It's just he just owns it. So we'll see what he does with it. See if it retains its that special, weird flavor that it currently has. I don't know what that flavor would be. Well, we got more news coming right up. But first, let's talk about Braintree. What is Braintree? Braintree is code for easy online payments, and I want to get every single app developer, every single website developer who sells things, products or services, who watches this show on Braintree. And the reason is that it's just period. It's just superior in every single way. And if you're familiar with some of the biggest unicorns like Uber, of course, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, and Munchery, you know that the whole payments process is just as good as it can possibly be. And the thing you also need to know, if you haven't actually used Braintree as a developer, is that it's that easy for you as well. It's not just easy for your customers. It's easy for you, the developer. It's so seamless. Just a few lines of code. You can implement it in a few minutes, and you're up and running. You don't have to deal individually with all these different payment types like in the old days. This is the new way to do it. It's just turnkey payments. So easy to do. Braintree gives you a full stack payment solution, support for all payment types that your customer might want. Start accepting PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, credit cards, so much more, all with a single integration across all platforms. And importantly, with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/TNT. Well, we got some big numbers for you. 50. That's the percentage of iPhones and iPads that Apple says are already running iOS 9, the new version which shipped Tuesday. Lindsay, Turrentine people are listening to your advice. They're rushing out to get iOS 9 because, for whatever reason, Apple is so good at this compared to Android. Half in less than a week. That is incredible.
Yeah, it's, I think the reason is that people who own iPhones usually have owned iPhones before. Not always, but like 70% of purchases, I think recent data says, are from previous owners. So everybody's used to the cycle. The first couple of times that they updated iOS, it seemed weird. The messaging system around getting people to upgrade and kind of nudging them, and it's time. Apple has gotten very good at, and then people are sort of used to it. So then they do it.
Yeah. I also think that Apple's very good at letting everybody know where you are, what operating system is the current one at any given time. Like right now, if you were to see somebody using Android on the street and pigeonhole them and say, what's the current version of Android? They might say, Marshmallow? Is it Lollipop?
Right.
They probably wouldn't even know. So there's a lot of clarity in the iOS world around exactly what the current version is. And so I think that helps as well. Plus they pester you and invite you to sort of upgrade. And everybody's hooked into the Apple system, unlike on the Android platform where people might be off on different different platforms, you know, Amazon's or whatever. It's especially bad in China. Well, in news you can lose, a year and a half ago, HBO CEO Richard Plepler said he didn't care that people were sharing their HBO usernames and passwords. He said HBO is in the business of creating HBO addicts. Comedian Andy Samberg referred to that claim when he made the following joke while hosting the Emmys last night. Let's roll the video.
For their streaming services is a problem. So, here's my HBO Now login. The username is KhaleesiFan3 at emmyhost.com. The password is, of course, password1. Gotta have a number in there, throw them off the scent. But this is 100% real, so to all of our millions of viewers, everyone out there, go to town, check out Game of Thrones, watch a buttload of Arliss. HBO doesn't care, they said so on.
All right, well, it was a joke, but the internet quickly found out that he actually gave real account information. The login worked for a few minutes before HP shut it down.
I would love to be that person on the other side of that IT call.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
crap.
Right, all the pagers went off simultaneously. The support people. Well, Apple's next Apple TV hasn't shipped yet, but a developer is selling 2 of them on eBay. The Apple TV will cost either $149 or $199, but the price on eBay is already over $1,000.
I am pretty sure that that's against the terms of service.
It might be. It might be. I'm sure Apple doesn't care. Just kidding. They care. Well, is there anything drones can't do? In this video shot at RTH Zurich Flying Machine Arena in Switzerland, a drone is building a rope bridge from scratch. Let's watch the video. So apparently this is all completely real, no smoke and mirrors. These drones actually built a rope bridge, and then at the end of it, somebody walked across it. So here they are, like sort of stringing the rope, tying it.
Wow. Who thought of this?
But you can just see this being sort of, I don't know how much of this is pre-programmed and how much is just people flying this stuff. But you can imagine that in the future this can be done in a sort of programmatic, algorithmic way. And then for you know, military or special forces or something, they can just have drones build bridges and stuff in the jungle somewhere.
I'm mesmerized.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So what we're looking at here, if you're listening to the audio, it's a big room covered with sheets in case one of the drones freaks out and goes flying off. And now it's in fast motion. They're just, these drones are just doing like these aerial stunts that will result in an actual rope bridge. And there it is. There's the rope bridge. And now they're walking across it. It's fully functional. Very, very cool. And I want to know more about this RTH Zurich Flying Machine Arena. Sounds like a cool place. I like to go there.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool. All right, well, Monument Valley is one of the coolest mobile games ever. But now the British company that made the game has created a virtual reality game called Land's End exclusively for Samsung's Gear VR headset. You're in luck, Jason. I know. I'm excited. Let's watch the company's promotional video. This actually reminds me of Myst. You ever play Myst, Lindsay?
Oh, just for like 2 seconds when I was, you know, a baby.
So,
it is really cool.
Yeah, so this is like Myst in the sense that it's a kind of an open world. You wander around in this world. You have to solve puzzles to make progress. It's also very like strange and sort of mysterious. You're on this island as
alone.
in Myst. Yeah, but again, this is a 2D representation. The actual game is in 3D VR. So this has got to be really cool.
Yeah, this reminds me of some of the stuff that I'm sure Microsoft is working on for HoloLens and oh gosh, Minecraft, that one.
Yeah, which of course will be augmented reality. This I believe is virtual reality. I think the big news here is the fact that this major game put so much effort into the Samsung platform. You can't use it on any other platform. Samsung is based on Oculus Rift, of course, but or at least, what is it, Jason? Jason's wearing his, okay, fine. He got excited and ran off, and he's trying it already. Now he can't see the buttons because he's got the goggles on. There it is.
Well, you know, it's the most accessible sort of higher end goggles set right now.
It's accessible if you happen to have that one phone that it works with. So, you know, that's the thing. So, and the game ships October 30th, by the way. So if you are somebody like Jason who's got the phone and the headset, October 30th, this is coming. That's pretty soon for a virtual reality game. Usually we have to wait years and years for these things. Well, our TNT,
really cool.
Yeah, very cool. Our TNT fan of the day is my friend Noble Ackerson, who sent me this photo, which was taken with Google Glass, and he sent it via Facebook Messenger. He's listening to Tech News Today while wearing a Moto 360 and, of course, Google Glass, and driving a Tesla. Can you say nerd alert?
Yeah, but cool nerd.
Yeah, very cool. And this guy's all in with the gadgets and the Google Glass and stuff, and you can see Tech News Today down below. Very cool. I got to get me a Tesla one of these days. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup or your Tesla and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. Lindsay Turrentine, you told me before the show that you guys have something really cool going on over at CNET.com. What's going on?
So we bought a house. We bought a whole house in Louisville, Kentucky. It's
nice.
like 4,500 square feet, and it's going to be our smart home test house where it's a living lab for all smart home devices, and we are super psyched about it. You can go to CNET to read more about it and see pictures of the house, which will make you insanely jealous and want to move to Louisville. So
did you do this because Google is going to be rolling out Google Fiber there?
No, we actually didn't, and we're not sure yet whether fiber is going to reach this particular neighborhood. This is kind of about 30 minutes out of Louisville, actually. So we're not actually sure about fiber yet. But if it does, it'll be great. That'll be a huge asset to us for sure.
I mean, CNET is a major publication, and I think Google would be wise to make sure that the fiber reaches out there. I mean, this would be great,
yes.
Because you guys are going to write a bazillion stories over a period of years, and you'll be mentioning Google Fiber. This would be a great publicity for them. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree. I would love to have fiber there, but in a sense, it doesn't really matter because what we're trying to do is test what it's like to live with a smart home for normal people. So until normal people have access to fiber, we're going to continue to keep on keeping on with the connection that we have.
Very, very cool. I can't wait to check that out. Lindsay Turrentine, where can people follow you on, say, Twitter or Facebook or wherever it is you want people to follow you?
Go to Twitter.
Okay,
I'm
Twitter.
at L Turrentine. First initial, last name.
L Turrentine on the Twitter. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Let us know what's on your mind. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on iTunes. You can choose another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT, and you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. Follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Elgan. Also, don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. And that is the Tech News Today. The show is produced by Jason Cleanthes and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.